Hello everyone, welcome to the series of O-Level Mathematics, Class 9-1, Cambridge igcse at its syllabus at Mathegination, the channel where you can learn and learn. So, in our previous lectures, we start chapter 21 of Collinsbook and we studied functions, how to represent them, and we studied topic 21.1. We did exercises associated this topic 21.1, which is exercise 21A, and we did lot of questions. Now, today, we are going to start topic 21.2 of College book, chapter 21, and in this video, we will see what are the inverse functions, what is the theory behind them, how to represent them, and how to find the inverse of any function. So before starting, if you didn't subscribe our channel already, please subscribe and learn in a fun way. Okay, so let's go to the topic.
Okay, so let's see what is mean by the inverse function. And for this, first of all, just see these two concepts. So here we have a function f of x, which is 2x plus 6. And we are asking that find the value of a function, this f of x at x equals 1, at x equals 3, and x equals minus 1. So to evaluate these values and put it in a function is really easy. So first of all, put 1 at our function. So what we got? F of 1 equals 2 multiplied by 1 plus 6. So it gives us 8. Okay. Next, calculate f of 3. So again, just put 3 in place of x. 2 multiplied by 3 plus 6. 2 3s are 6. 6 plus 6, 12. Then f of minus 4. So again 2, put minus 4 in place of x, plus 6. So we got minus 8 plus 6 is minus 2. So it's very easy. So we just evaluate the function. At x equals 1, we got 8. At x equals 3, we got 12. At x equals minus 4, we got minus 2. Okay. Now, hold this function for now and come to this function g of x. So g of x equals x minus 6 divided by 2. So now again, the thing we have to ask is find the value of a function gx at x8, at x equals 12, and x equals minus 2. Okay, so again, we do the same thing. So instead of x, we write 1. So g of 1 is 1. So here I am placing 1 in place of x, 1 minus 6 divided by 2. Okay, sorry, we don't have to put 1, we have to put actually 8. It's a mistake. Yeah, so we are given 8. So g of 8, so 8 minus 6 divided by 2. So 8 minus 6 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, then in place of x, we have to put 12. So g of 12, 12 minus 6 divided by 2. So 12 minus 6 again is 6. 6 over 2 is 3. And lastly, we have g of minus 2. So you can say that instead of x, write minus 2, minus 6 divided by 2. So minus 6 and minus 2 is minus 8. Minus 8 divided by 2 gives us minus 4. So at x equals 8, we got 1. At x equals 12, we got 3. And at x equals minus 2, we got minus 4. So these are not any ordinary function, but actually if you see the pattern in f of x, when you put 1, you got 8. In g of x, you do a reverse. i.e. you put 8 and get 1. In f, when you put 3, you got 12. In g of x, when you put 12, you got 3. In f of x, when you put -4, you got -2. And g of x, when you put -2, you got -4. So actually, this g of x and f of x are related, right? And the relation is actually they both are inverses of each other. So they both are inverses of each other. And how we can find it? We saw the pattern, right? We see that we put x 1, 3, -4. So as an output, we got 8, 12, and -2. And when we put these output in g of x, we again get our input 1, 3, -4. So at g of x, when we put x 8, 12, -2, so we got output which is 1, second is 3, and then -4. It means when we input 1, 3, -4, we got output 8, 12, -2. So the output of f of x is the input of g of x. And the input of g of x is the output of f of x. So here this thing is input. This thing is input. But for what? F of x. For f of x, this is the input. And for g of x, the same thing is the output. And again, in g of x, this thing is the input. But the same thing is the output of f of x. So actually, the input and output are just switched. This thing is input for f of x, but output for g of f, 1, 3, -4. And the same thing, the x 8, 12, -2 is the input of g of x, but the output of f of x. So it means there is a relation between them because the input of one is the output of other and vice versa. The input of g of x is the output of f of x. Also, the input of f of x is the output of g of x. So this its input is its output, and this its input is its output, right? So it means they are related to each other, and this relation we call inverses, right? So these two functions are inverses of each other. So this is the actual example concept of inverse function. So what are the inverse function? So two functions are inverses of each other if the input of one is the output of other, and the input of f of x is the output of g of x, right? So the input of f of x is the output of g of x, and the input of g of x is the output of f of x. If this thing holds, we say, okay, both functions are inverses of each other. F of x, so we say g of x is the inverse of f of x, and f of x is the inverse of g of x. So this is the simple thing. Say that how if we are given two functions, how can we find that these two functions are inverses of each other or not? By just seeing the input and output of these functions. So this is the concept of inverse functions. Okay. So we know that if we are given two functions and we have to check that if these two functions are inverses of each other or not, what we have to do? We take each function, put the input that are given in the question in the function f of x, and take output, right? And then we take g of x, put input which are given in the question, put these input in the g of x, and take output. And then we saw that the input of f of x is equals to output of g of x or not. and the input of g of x is equals to the output of f of x or not. If both are equals, we say that okay, the our functions are inverses of each other. If not, so we say these functions are not inverses of each other. But the main question is, and the question that comes in exams in this form, that suppose we are giving just one function f of x equals 2x plus x, 2x plus 6, right? The same function I take, the f of x, 2x plus 6. There is no input with this, and this is the only question, that f of x is this. Find the inverse, find the inverse of f of x. So in exam, we have to give in the function f of x like this one, and they are asking us find the inverse of this f of x. Okay, so the one thing to make the inverse of any function, so what we are doing is to make the inverse of this function. Okay, for the inverse, we have to use, so inverse of f of x, mathematically we use this symbol f, this minus was sign and x, so this is mean f inverse x, right? So this is the symbol of inverse, so we have to find this. So solution, so we have to find inverse of f of x, which is f inverse x, right? So this is the notation of inverse. Okay, now there are steps which we have to follow to find out the inverse of any function like this function f of x. So step 1, first step is replace f of x by y, right? So this is the first and a very simple step. So in your function that you are given, first thing you have to do, in place of f of x, you have to write y. So y equals 2x plus 6. Simple thing. Next, what you have to do is actually in step 2, now you can see that when you place y in place of x, f of x, so you got y on one side and all the other thing on other side. So in step 2, what you have to do, find the value of y, and not just the value, find expression for y, we can say. Find the expression for x. What does it mean? So here you can see y is on the one side and all the other things on the other side. So you have to make this expression like this, that we have x on one side and all the other thing on other side. So actually we have to find the expression for x. So here what we can do, y, this is plus 6. So y, this is plus 6, it goes there. So it becomes minus 6 equals 2x. Here 2 is multiplying with x. So on the other side, it is divided by, and this is x. So here you can see that you can find the value of x. So this is step 2, that x is on one side and all the other things are on the other side. Doesn't matter on the left hand or the right hand, but what you have to do, just make the variable x on one side and all the other variable on all the other things on the other side. Okay. Now, step 3, replace x, right, with f inverse x. Okay, so we have to replace x with f inverse x. So it becomes y minus 6 divided by 2, and this x become f inverse x. And the step 4 is replace y with x. So actually it's just the replacement of the variable. So, so what it becomes, x minus 6 over 2 is equal to f inverse. And this becomes the inverse of f of x. And you can see that the g of x, which is x minus 6 over 2. So when we have given this function, we follow this step, and in the end, we found out that exactly the same inverse, x minus 6 over 2, right? Okay, one thing which is very important, that here I said that replace x with f inverse x, right? So this is, you can see that y equals f of x, right? We replace f of x with y, right? Above, in this step, we replace f of x by y, right? It means we take f of x equals to y, right? So when you take this f from there, so x equals f inverse y, right? So in place of x, you can write f inverse y as well. So, but this is the really simple thing. Don't need to go into the deeper and confuse yourself. Just this is the thing, that step 3, when you found out the x, just replace x with f inverse x and replace y with x, and you are done with the calculation to find the inverse function. So this is an important question. I hope you understand.